मन जाकर राखो जी, गिरिधारी लाल। मन जाकर राखो जी।
This is episode number 22. In our last episode, we spoke about verse 22. If we recall, we talked about the body as the clothes that are new and wear out, and we acquire the new clothing. So the Jivatman also acquires the new bodies. And this life after life, body after body continues as long as we have some kind of desires, and it is the desires that causes us to obtain these bodies. Not knowing how many desires we have, it may be several hundred thousands, and so the man's life is not considered physically only of this body, but his body of desire, and that may run into millions of years. But when the end of desire comes, then we realize God, and that would be the end of our life then. So we were talking about the bodies, the Atman. The body that we are talking about is not only physical, but I think in our scriptures we specifically mention that mind, intellect, and ego are also physical because they have the same characteristics. As the body, they come in birth, they wear out like the intellect and the mind, they change, and we know that the characteristics of Atman is unchanging, they don't wear out, they remain uniform. Now let's proceed on what Lord has to say about Atman, which is of course it is so difficult to grasp that he has to say in several ways in the different modes so that something might strike to us uh, which we may grasp. Not all of us can understand the same thing at the same time. So the sweet repetition is quite necessary. Obviously, Bhagavan thinks it's necessary. He has been telling us since verse 9 until almost the end of verse 30, so often talking about same Atman and body in several ways. नैनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्ति आपः न शोषयति मारुतः. The slok 23 tells us that this Atman, or we may, as we have said, called self, weapons cannot destroy it, cut it. Fire cannot burn like we have fires in California or in Colorado, where we lose thousands of trees. Fire is so dangerous, the buildings have been burned to ashes. But Atman is again something that cannot be burned, water cannot wet, and the wind cannot dry. What we are saying is that it is beyond the phenomenal world. Phenomenal world consists of five elements, as we have spoken before: the sky, the wind, the sun, the water, and the earth. And therefore, we are relating all those things that the Atman is unaffected by these five elements. Again, When we have said it in one positive way, the Lord is saying in a negative way, achedyaha ayam adayaha ayam akledyaha asosya evacha nityaha sarvagata sthanuhu achalaha ayam sanatanaha. So this self cannot be cut, nor burnt, nor wetted, nor dried. We have spoken about this already. Is changeless, all pervading, unmoving, immovable, the self is eternal. Now, when we think about these adjectives, immovable, unmoving, all pervading, we will see that nothing in the universe is changeless or unmoving or immovable or eternal. Whether we take the earth or whether we take the sun or the moon or the whole creation, it is constantly moving, constantly changing. As we know, our earth is rotating, so nothing on the earth is therefore stable. If the whole earth is moving around the sun, then nothing on the earth can be stable. And the sun is also moving around the galaxies, so again sun is also not stable. So we see that the whole universe and the galaxies are all in motion, and here we are talking about something beyond motion. So then we want to understand what we are familiar with, motion and change and all that, which is the body, so that we can consider that it is at least something different than what we know. It is good enough to know that Atman is something different from what we can conceive by our mind and intellect. That is what we are trying to say here. That we cannot simply conceive or imagine or bring under our mental kshetra or field. So that is what Lord is saying here. Atha cha enam nityajatam nityam va manyase mrutam. Now I think we were talking about slok 24. Now we'll be talking about slok 25, which is essentially last slok in which we are talking about Atman and also we have talked about body. Avyaktaha ayam achintyaha ayam avikaryaha ayam uchyate tasmat evam viditva enam na anusochitum arhasi. This self is said to be unmanifested, it does not manifest, unthinkable and unchangeable. Therefore, knowing this as it is, you should not mourn. And we know that Arjuna is mourning. Mourning has been our problem. Yesterday was the 1 year anniversary where we were mourning what happened in New York. We talked about early Duryodhan and the battlefield in which Arjuna started mourning. Mourning is always going to be with us as long as we are in this universe, because incidents happen where we simply do not understand or we have no control over the happenings. It happens unexpected, and therefore the mourning remains with us. We will have to learn to live with mourning. But if you want to go beyond mourning, then we will also have to go beyond body, because it is the body that is causing us mourning, it is the physical elements, and we are usually in the field of body. So I think the Lord is giving us the example of body because we are all so body oriented. When you think of it, our life from day one, we talk about eating or drinking milk, mother's milk. From day one we are born until we die, we are a makeup of food and of course all the related five elements. So Lord is trying to remind us that body is an important aspect to you, and yet you are not the body. So and also we are familiar with the body. Now when we say unmanifested, Atma is unmanifested, we must stop and think that we call God as manifest. We see them in certain forms like Shri Krishna Bhagwan, Mirabai, Buddha, Jesus. So they are all the forms, Muhammad and all other saints that we know of. And yet God says he is unmanifest. So then we can say that God is also not only unmanifest, he is beyond name and form, but for his devotees, God also takes forms. It is like mother who also takes various forms when she is playing with the child. If the child is small, She becomes small, she talks her language of the little baby, even though mother herself is not a baby. So from that point of view then, God can be unmanifest. As a matter of fact, He is here, we are told, yet God can and does take forms. So we have to recognize both, and we'll try to distinguish the both, that God essentially is unmanifested. God is beyond name and form. All Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita is constantly talking to us that He is beyond the sky, and the sky itself almost is unmanifest. We really don't know how to describe the sky. It has no size, it has no limits, it has no color. We cannot really touch it. It is unaffected by smokes and other things we do. So, if sky is something that is beyond our grasp or understanding, we can imagine one who has made the sky, how unmanifest he or she must be. When we say he, of course, God is neither male nor female. God is neutral, and even though God is male, God is female, and yet God is beyond both. We have to recognize that God is equally woman as He is man. What we may see the stress on one against the other is only because it is a man-made world in which we use our own imagination and power and strength. So God is unmanifested. God is unthinkable. So when we meditate on God, what are we meditating on? If we are meditating by mind, then God cannot be conceived. And yet most of us are meditating through mind. What we may want to say or do is that the mind is an obstacle, so when we try to meditate, we find out what our mind tells us, how it is roaming, but it is still a mind, and God is not in the field of mind. So we can only hope that the mind that is an obstacle, an obstruction, we can get rid of that obstacle and train our mind so that the mind will be pure, and when the pure mind is what we have achieved, then we can see through that curtain of purity what God might look like. So in meditation, we cannot conceive God by mind. So if somebody says, well, I saw in my mind God like this, it is only our imagination. Anything that mind is telling us is imagination, because imagination is a characteristic of the mind, and God is beyond the imagination. So again, we have been told He is unthinkable. We cannot think about it. Achintya. We cannot do chintan, that is meditation, on God. And He is unchangeable, so we realize that death is what we have been concerned from birth to death, and we have again said that God does not go through these changes. So if this is what we are and that is our real nature, then there will be no cause of mourning. But if we think of ourselves only as a body, or the elements and mind and intellect, then I am sure we will have more than one occasion to mourn. And if we want to go beyond mourn, there is no other way than to realize that we are not the body that causes us mourning. So right here then up to slok 25, Shri Krishna Bhagavan is trying to give us the idea, at least, even though it's beyond idea, going through the understanding of the body, comparing with the body, because we are so body oriented. We know our culture is body oriented. We are thinking about body in everywhere. Look at the magazines, TVs, and throughout the culture we see the bodies as if we are the worshippers of the body rather than Atman. We have very little to do something deeper than the skin. And God here has fundamentally told us that body is just a cloth or a cloth to our real self, which is Atman, and He is trying to explain that to us. Now I do feel that this explanation that God has given us, since it is beyond understanding, as much as we can try to understand, this subject has been taken from Katha Upanishad. I might want to say a few sloks that might even add to our understanding of what Gita is saying, because Katha Upanishad is mother of Gita. And so it is always good to see what those saints originally conceived when they saw God, and what then Vyas Muni borrowed from that actually He may have realized in his own form, but some of the slokas he has directly copied from the Upanishad. So I would like to see what the original mother of Gita is saying about Atman. There was in the ancient time a boy Nachiketa, and his father was performing a yajna or havan, and there was an occasion. So the Nachiketa goes to his teacher and he wants to know about Atman. So when he went to Atman and he asked his guru that can you explain to me, Nachiketa said this, अन्यत्र धर्मात् अन्यत्र अधर्मात् अन्यत्र अस्मात् कृत कृतात् अन्यत्र भूताश्च भव्याश्च यत्तत् पश्यसि तद् वद. He was already offered so much of other things, wealth, even long life, thousands of years of life, beautiful women, that as they say, they want to go in heaven and all. Everything that a human being can desire was offered to Nachiketa, but Nachiketa refused. He says, no, I want something beyond that. And what is he saying? He says that that which you behold as different from dharma and adharma, as different from cause and effect, as different from what had been and what shall be, please tell me. So, a beautiful question he has put that please tell me what is beyond dharma and please tell me what is adharma, that is beyond adharma. Please also tell me what is cause and effect and also please tell me what is different from past and present. What a beautiful question. I doubt if we could have put this question unless we have overcome all our desires and we are really going for the supreme. So he refused all the pleasures of this world. These are the requirements. Once we are gone beyond these worldly desires, only then we will be qualified to understand or go beyond. So this question then that Nachiketa is asking, his teacher, of course, is Yama, was the teacher who knows about God. He answers, the goal, he says, Sarve Veda Yat Padam Amananti Tapansi Sarvani Cha Yad Vadanti Yad Ichhanta Brahmacharyam Charanti Tatte Padam Sangrahena Bravimi Iti Om Iti Etat. So he says that the goal which all the Vedas proclaim, which all penances declare, and desiring which they lead a life of brahmacharya, I tell it to thee in brief. In other words, what we are looking for is that Atman, or it is also known as Om. We shall be talking about that sometimes later, but this is the goal of the Vedas. What are the Vedas teaching us? All the four Vedas. What is the ultimate goal? Ultimate goal is to let us know about God, Atman, or Om, whatever name we give, or Brahman. And in doing in trying to realize God, we must have penances. We must desire to live a life of brahmacharya, and only then we will be qualified according to this law. So then these are some of the statements that the guru or the teacher to whom Nachiketa went, and this was his question, this was his answer of his guru. But there is another beautiful slok which says, न अयमात्मा प्रवचनेन लभ्यो न मेधया न बहुना श्रुतेन यम एव एष वृणुते तेन लभ्य तस्य एष आत्मा वृणुते तनु स्वाम. This is one of the most beautiful slok worthy of our attention and meditation. It says, this Atman cannot be attained by the study of the Vedas, nor by intellect, nor even by much learning. By him it is attained whom the Atman chooses. This, his own Atman, reveals the Atman. Now this is a rather a complex statement, But if we try to understand this, that the Atman cannot be attained or Bhagwan cannot be attained by mere talking and mere listening to scriptures or going through the rituals according to this, and too much learning sometimes make us proud of our learning. So he says it is the bookish knowledge that will not help us to do that. It can be attained only when a man has purified, as we have spoken before, through brahmacharya, tapasarya, and havans and all that. And then, by grace of God, not only that we have made the effort, but there has to be grace. And before the grace, we must have full faith. And full faith means full surrender. So, when we have achieved all these things that we can do, like Mirabai, okay, we have surrendered totally all that we can give, all that we own, all that we have, then hopefully, not knowing our past sanskar, time may come, we cannot say that, well, I have qualified, now I must be given a degree. I have finished 4 years of course and now I am qualified for the degree. Not so. But we do our best because we don't know when we will be qualified. We don't know our past karmas. We have to be very patient. We should continue to be in a surrendered position. We should have faith, and we must continue our studies. We must continue our services, whatever the Gita is going to direct us. When we continue this, someday we hope, and it has happened, and it will happen, that Lord will have mercy on us, compassion on us, and that we might have purified ourselves enough that He may grace us. And remember then, the man can only qualify for grace of God. We cannot force, we cannot demand that these are the requirements and therefore I have fulfilled it. This is not the law. Law only God alone knows. He has never revealed perfectly, totally His law. Only His men who have realized Him know His law. So essentially we should never claim that I have done this, so I should be qualified to realize. It is His grace. So whomever He chooses means it is not that He favors one against other and He just loves one person, so He gives him darshan or realization and another person He doesn't like. It is not so. We still, all of us have to be qualified. He never does injustice, but this is the process that we are talking about, that we have to go through this process of purification, and then when we have, it will naturally give us those that status that we are looking for, which is self-realization. But then who will not realize it? It is a beautiful slok only said in the next one. Na aviratah duscharitat na shantah na asamahitah na ashantamanasah vapi prajnanena enam apnuyat. Now in this slok we say that neither those who have not refrained from wickedness, nor the unrestrained, nor the unmeditative, nor the one with unpacified mind can attain this even by knowledge. In other words, even if we have bookish knowledge, this cannot be achieved, the status of realizing Atman, knowing Atman or becoming Atman, if we continue our wickedness, if we continue this method like Duryodhana. Duryodhana is definitely considered wicked or terrorist or felon, as we have said before. And wicked people cannot realize it. That is number one. The number two is unrestrained. We must control our mind, our food, our speech, all our organs. We must keep them balanced. Without restraint, there is no possibility. Unmeditative. We must meditate, we must focus, we must calm down, we must cool off, we must slow down and spend some time peacefully in retreat or in places like Big Basin, go alone, spend some time to be alone with nature. Be meditative means not let things disturb us. In the house we always have a lot of disturbance going on, as we know. So unmeditative people or those who cannot focus will not realize it. Or those who have not been pacified by their passions and desires until we have been fulfilled primarily our desires, this knowledge cannot be attained. So we have got in these various ways. The origin we talked about, the Gita is talking about. I think we have enough understanding And it is a strange thing when we say we have enough understanding. What I am saying is that we have not understanding. In other words, we admit that we cannot understand. This is beyond understanding, then I call that is understanding. To say that I have not understood is the understanding. So these are the things. That means you have made yourself humble, and when you have made humble, then there is a possibility that you will grasp it by His grace. So these are some of the statements that the Lord has made. It is the experience of all these saints. Now we will move on with our slok number 26, in which Lord says, Athacha enam nityajatam nityam va manyase mrutam tathapitam abhavo na enam sochitum arhase. Now Sri Krishna Bhagavan knows that Arjuna is still sitting there. He has not understood at all what he is talking about. For if he had, he would have stood up and he says, well, I am Atman and I am not going to die, so why am I worried? I should go ahead and do what the Lord tells me to do. But he has not made any move. That means everything has gone over his head. First time we read, second time we read, third time we read or meditate, we will not be able to grasp, but we must continue. Someday, by God's grace, we will grasp, we will understand. So, Arjuna has not understood, so Lord is taking another position because Arjuna is still not purified. He has desires, we all know that he is so much concerned about his relatives and his kingdom and what will happen to him. So his mind is not focused on what Sri Krishna Bhagavan is talking to him. I wonder if he is able to focus half as much under the present circumstances of depression, what Lord is saying, and that's why Lord knows that also, and he is repeating and trying to explain in one form or the other, in one way or the other, that something will strike. Now, Lord knows that apparently he has not understood all that has been talked because it is beyond understanding. So he says that, okay, let's look at it from your own point of view. He says that if you don't understand this and if you still continue to think that Atman is constantly born and constantly dying, in other words, all you can think is about the body, and nothing you have never known that is never born and never died. You don't know that substance because it doesn't exist in this world, or if it exists, it's so hidden that we have to be very pure. So, if you think that you are only body and the universe is constantly born and dying, that means you can think in terms of the body only, then also, hey Mahabhavo, you should not grieve, because even in that case, the situation is that whoever is born, that is the next slok, why we should not be grieving? Then he says, Jatasya hi dhruvaha mrityu dhruva janma mritasya cha tasmat aparihare arthe na tvam sochitum arase. Those who are born are definitely going to die, and those who are going to die are definitely going to be born. So this is something which is not up to us, it is beyond us, it is the law that God has made. God alone knows why we are born, how we live, how we die. We really never have known the secret of our life. So we must trust that whatever God is doing is perfect. He knows what is He doing. This is not up to me about how I will be living. I am constantly, every minute I am getting old. I cannot stop it. No matter what I do, things are happening the way they are happening. If that is the case, then we should be wise enough to accept it. That is called wisdom. That means that wisdom then will give us an opportunity not to grieve. I think again and again, as we say yesterday all day, the whole country was grieving. We are in grief. Actually, whole year we have been in grief. But this is not something new. Time and again for ages, we have gone through the struggle, we have gone through the suffering, we have gone through the wars, and we have gone through the sufferings of women and children through these wars, World War number one, number two, even before the Alexander the Great, Napoleon, all these people out of pride and vanity had created so much destruction that this experience is not new at all. So this grieving is always been with us, and that keeps us depressed, and that does not allow us to realize the purpose of human life. So God is constantly and repeatedly saying that you don't have to grieve, or you will go beyond grief only if you realize what I am talking about. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.